till 5:30. A lot of color here. If nothing else, if your eyes are like mine, maybe they don't work as good as they used to. Follow the lightning and follow where the southeastern part of the lightning is, because that's where the storm is coming up against the winds coming off the ocean and where the most heat is. So if nothing else, I know there's a lot going on here. Focus on sort of the southeastern side or the right side of motion of where you see the lightning. And without using all that other vocabulary, we can say that's where the worst of the weather is, or the highest potential for rotation with that particular storm. So here's another way to look at it. There's where the color is, the most intense colors, and the lightning, and just all verifies what we're talking about, folks. So on the right side of this, think of it as a ball of energy. So on the right side of this ball of energy, if there's any rotation left with this storm, it continues to work off to the northeast. So it looks like we're not receiving a rightward bias right now. And that could be good news for those of you in Jekyll Island. But again, Jekyll Island up to St. Simons, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning. But at least this now says the worst of the weather is past downtown Brunswick. Again, moving away from the rest of you folks in Brunswick. If you're in Brunswick and you are not near the water, that means you're in Brunswick and you're closer to I-95 or you're farther north, heavy rain and lightning, yes. But if you're in Brunswick and you're away from the water, this is moving away from you. Okay, so that's all good news. So although you may see the tornado warning extends all the way back, almost to I-95 into Camden County, it's past you. The real concern left will be for those of you from Jekyll Island on over to St. Simons, and it looks like to me from radar, the worst that this storm has to offer is going to be on the causeway right now and in St. Simons Island, and then improving conditions farther off to the west. In fact, got a lot of geometry going on here, but if you see this line here, that's the severe thunderstorm warning. That's been shaved from west to east, so that also supports the idea. This is the ball that's causing the potential problems, and it is on the move. So here's another vantage point, and again, still I think supports the idea that the worst of the weather pretty much that's left from this storm over St. Simons Island. Now, I do want to note that plenty more rain to come for many of us, but I think any additional storms, once this gets offshore, any additional storms that potentially could cause wind damage are now going to be south of Duval and tending to be pretty much Putnam County, far southern St. Johns County, and even Flagler County. So again, for those of you in St. Johns County, let's say from St. Augustine and then to Clay County, draw a line from St. Augustine to Green Cove Springs to Keystone Heights. From that point north, a lot of rain, a lot of lightning, but I think the wind damage concern for you has come to an end. South of St. Augustine, Green Cove Springs, Magnolia Point area, Keystone Heights, south. I'm not saying you're going to have wind damage, but I'm saying that if there are going to be new warnings, that's where they're going to be. Let's go back to the tornado warning. And again, that's going to go until 5:30, and I suspect that'll be held until then. But again, continues to support the idea that no doubt about it, stormy in Brunswick, but the worst that you all in Brunswick were going to get from the storm, that's over. It's the biggest concern of any additional wind damage is going to be offshore. Now, with that said, it could be that some limbs have come down. It could be that some power lines have come down in Brunswick, so I'd still be very careful. I'm just saying as far as, in fact, I'm going to zoom in. In fact, I think now officially we've seen that the tornado warning has been shaved to where pretty much now just covering, we're just looking at the islands, and that doesn't mean you folks in the islands are any less significant. You certainly are. What I'm saying is at least the area is much smaller here. In fact, what we'll do is we'll zoom in and show you what we have. Yeah, the tornado warning is pretty much now for the estuary and then points over to the island. So we'll zoom in and take some of this color out of here for you. Yeah, so there's the tornado warning is now for the islands. So think the bridges, the causeway, and the islands are the areas where you absolutely do not want to be on the roadway, but we're really hyper-focused here. So we are talking about from St. Simons on down to the beaches there to the south and the Brunswick. So Brunswick itself, the tornado warning is past your area, so we're simply talking about the islands. We're going to bring back so that's the most vertical portion of the storm is actually now passing off to the north, and it's dragging what we call a gust front. And the gust front is going to be where the potential highest risk of wind damage will be, and that is going to be about like this and heading offshore. And that is good news. So we're going to continue to track this and take it through 5:30 to make sure we don't have any other surprises. I'm going to continue doing analysis with you. Let's go to, the radar supports the gust front is headed offshore. We're going to go to other ingredients in the radar. Let's see if we can go back and find that rotation, which we were able to see briefly. And so what you'll see here, let me clean this up for you. Sorry, folks, I know this is a lot. It's a lot to look at, but what we'll do here is see if we can see where we saw rotation and then we didn't. Yeah, this is about as slow as it goes, and I will track it with you so I can show you what I'm talking about here. If you can see, for a while there, we could see. So there it is, right there. Maybe this will do a better job. Do you see a different color? I think for most of you, you may see green within red. That's showing basically wind going in different directions. And that's what we mean by radar indicated circulation. I know it looks highly pixelized, but we're dealing with digits here. But that paints where that rotation was, and this supports the idea that we don't even see really the rotation in the storm anymore. And so that's why I'm pretty confident that once we get to 5:30 that this tornado warning will be dropped. Nonetheless, the heavy rain continues off to the northeast, and thus for those of you in Brunswick, from Jekyll Island on up to St. Simon Island, all those islands really, which we fondly call the Golden Isles. We haven't had any reports of wind damage, but certainly at the very least, a few limbs could have come down. A few power lines may have come down. So the rain is heavy. If you don't have to be out and about, I'd stay inside. But if you do, just be aware of the fact that there might be some limbs down, some power lines down, although officially we do not have any reports on that. And again, I don't see any storms behind it. So and when I say storms, I mean the potential for additional wind damage. So for those of you in the Brunswick area, and really for that matter, Camden and all of Glynn County, behind it there is more rain to come, but that should be the last of the storms that would have and maybe did potentially cause some wind damage. Again, we've only officially had reports of trees that were down, but that was over 2 hours ago in Eccles County. And this is going to race offshore or may track along the coastline, Savannah, Hilton Head, maybe on up the South Carolina coastline. But that's going to be it as far as that particular storm is concerned. Still pretty intense, no doubt about it. But as these cells race off to the northeast, normally to their right, they kind of swing out an arm of wind gust. And the strongest wind gust is going to be where the winds, they're rotating around it, so the winds on the bottom side of it are out of the southwest. And when they meet that southeast sea breeze that was coming in from the ocean, that was the strongest part of the storm. And you probably experienced it as the gust front. But if you notice now that's off to the northeast, even though we don't see it, you can kind of paint an arm off to the right of its motion. So that would be down here, and that's offshore. So outside of boats, I think the worst that this storm has to offer is heading on away from the region. So that's it. We do have a tornado watch until 9 o'clock. At the present time, we don't have any warnings, but I suspect we're going to have more. And of course, we'll keep you updated as we go through the evening. I believe now we're going to have more in the way of news and an expanded picture of both the news and weather from Heather and Jeannie.